Hi everyone, welcome to Cancer Healing Journey Talks. Myself Sonali Modi from Community Outreach Team of zenonco.io and Love Heals Cancer. At zenonco.io and Love Heals Cancer, we guide cancer patients on adopting an integrative oncology treatment approach. We help them find the balance between medical treatment and complementary treatment approaches, and we also help our patients with our team of oncologists, lab experts, nutritionists, and other healthcare professionals so that we can improve the treatment outcome for patients. We also help in connecting patients with other cancer warriors who have gone through this journey to address their queries. And we also share inspirational journeys to motivate cancer survivors who are going through this journey currently. So, firstly, I would like to introduce you to today's speaker, Miss Wendi Cooper. She is a cancer survivor. I'm happy that you're here with us today to share your story. So, over to you, Wendi. Please tell us about yourself.
Well, thank you. And it's Solani. Is that how I pronounce your name?
Sonali.
Sonali. Yes, I am an ovarian cancer survivor. I actually am an ovarian cancer fighter. And did you want to know my history or I'm 66 years old. I live in Los Angeles. I also have the BRCA1 mutated gene for breast and ovarian cancer. And I was first diagnosed in 2005 and it is now 2021. Why don't you ask me the questions, because I can go on forever, Solani, unless you, so if you ask me questions, but yes, I was first diagnosed in 2005 with ovarian cancer.
What were the symptoms initially?
Well, mine was really interesting. I had a swollen lymph node in my groin, and typically that is looked at as like maybe a doctor had told me years before that it was like a little hernia, like an inguinal hernia, right? Mm-hmm. And so for years, like I would say it had to be 10 years, I would get this swollen lymph node there where the doctor said it was inguinal hernia that we never fixed. And it would just swell up. It would be tender and it would go away. 10 years. Swell up, tender, go away. So I moved once my home and it got swollen, and then it didn't go down and it never got unswollen. But I didn't want to touch it because it always hurt. If it was swollen, I touched it. So then one day I decided I'm going to touch it, push on it. And it was like a rock. It was not squishy and painful. It was like a rock. And I just went, oh, okay. So in the long story of it, they thought, well, we'll take her in. We'll see if it's a hernia. And I think they knew before I knew. But once they got in and they went in for a general repair of a hernia, they saw that there was cancer had surrounded the lymph node. But interestingly enough, well, that's when I woke up and they said, Miss Cooper, wake up from the surgery. And that's when it's like the classic movie where they go, ma'am, you've got cancer. And you're kind of like, what planet am I on? Did you just really say that to me? And that's exactly what happened. Was the surgeon looked at me and said, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you have ovarian cancer. They tested it right there, And then I went back to sleep. And then I woke up hours later again. And I said, can you tell me what you just said to me? So that's how my journey started. That's how we found the ovarian cancer.
Yes. So how this news was disclosed to your family?
My family at the time, my mom was going through my mom died of not ovarian cancer, sorry, of renal cell cancer in 2005. So she died as I went through my treatments. She was going through the very end of life actually with her. So I couldn't go to her funeral because one of my last chemo treatments, it nearly killed me. And that happened to be that when my mother died. She died 16 years ago, just last week. So my family didn't really take the news of the BRCA mutation was more devastating, because my family was already, Solani, going through the cancer with my mother. And so for me to get the cancer, it was more my husband that he just couldn't handle it. He couldn't believe how I could handle the diagnosis. Now, once the diagnosis came and then I had to go through chemo and all of that, that wasn't so easy to handle. But it was a very difficult time in my life. Let me put it that way, because I have two boys at the time. One was just in middle school, and my other son was, I don't know, my older son. So they weren't really, they kind of hid, people run the other direction when you're diagnosed with cancer. I have to be honest with you. My sister was there, and my husband, of course, was there because, but honestly, people kind of run the other direction and they just wait for you to get better or not, right? I was just talking about that the other day somewhere, how difficult it is on other people to understand how to speak and treat and be around someone that has cancer. But that's what we need to talk about a lot more.
Yes. We need to be more supportive.
Yeah.
Supportive and understanding.
Exactly. And teach people how to not be afraid of someone who has cancer. So my family, it was a little bit difficult on them, but the most difficult thing was having to get my Jewish side of the family together, my brothers and sisters together, to explain the hereditary mutation. So they understood, because this was 2005, so this was 16 years ago, right? There's not all the genetic testing that there was now back then. So it was mission critical, right? And so anyway, it turned out that one of my brothers, my older brother, is positive for the BRCA gene, and he is actually monitored for breast cancer also, and prostate cancer and all that. My sister, who's older than me, she was positive for the BRCA gene. She had she had the full hysterectomy and the mastectomy to remove her breasts, so that should, and which I did too further on down the road. But that was the most difficult thing, was to get them to understand that we are susceptible to a higher rate of potentially having cancer because of our mutation. But that was a long time ago. I currently, I had a recurrence. I don't know if I told you this. I don't think so. But I had a recurrence in 2019, December of 2018. And that was really difficult. And that continues to be difficult for me, because 15 years later, you would never think your cancer is going to come back. It's gone for 15 years. And then it's back. And that was very, very difficult. I had just stopped working at a job that I didn't like, but it didn't matter. They paid me a lot of money. But I just stopped working there. And then I had to have here in the United States, we have to have especially in California, in order to qualify for your insurance every year, you have to go through the physical, right? So I went to have the physical. And in this physical, it was discovered that my CA-125 had gone up. It was elevated. First time ever. So that was alarming. And then it really started, even up and up and up and up. And I was in denial. I didn't want to lose my hair again. I didn't want to go through that, because I almost died from the chemo the first time. I had Taxol carboplatin, 3 rounds. By the time I got to my 3rd round, I had such bad neuropathy in my feet, and no one, like my oncologist wasn't listening to me tell her it was happening. I knew that my mother had suffered the same thing, so I knew that could be a side effect, but it was really bad. I had to sleep with shoes on my feet for like 2 years. Shoes. I had to sleep with shoes. I was bald and I slept with shoes. Ask my husband is a saint for putting up with that. But and I've now lived with that neuropathy, and it was very bad back then. It's gotten a little bit better, but I've lived with that ever since. So, but anyway, in 2018, late in December of 2018, I was diagnosed with a recurrence. totally unexpected, but I had to go through a lot because they didn't know if it was my primary ovarian cancer or if it was a different cancer 15 years later. So that big question was there, as opposed to, oh, your ovarian cancer's back. That wasn't the question. The question was, is it? Because it's kind of interesting for it to take so long to come back. So let's do all of these tests. And so I had to go through all of that. And that's a lot of mental anxiety, is to go through all of those testing procedures all over again and then figure out a plan. Well, here's something that is really interesting, because both times my ovarian cancer was diagnosed, first time was because of that silly lymph node, because honestly, when they got inside and they opened me up the first time, I didn't have cancer anywhere. I only had cancer on the inside of my ovaries. So because it had metastasized to that one lymph node, it was considered stage 3C because it had metastasized. And so I had to go through the whole protocol of chemo for that reason, right? Okay. But this time when it recurred, it's now considered, it was ovarian cancer, and they couldn't really figure out where it was, because they just, they did this, the CAT scan, the PET scan, they could see there was something, but my surgeon didn't want to go in with a biopsy, because he says usually when you pull it out, it gets messed up and it's not good to do. So I said, you know what, I just want you to open me up and see what's in there. And he says, okay, let's do it. And so we did. And we did that in June of 2019. And sure enough, as he was wheeling me in to the operating room, I said to him, please check my right side. It just always hurts. It just hurts. Well, it turns out that my appendix was getting ready to burst, and my appendix was covered in cancer, right? But it was ready. He said it was ready to burst. That was the pain I was feeling in my back. It wasn't the cancer. It was, and the CT scan, PET scan did not show the appendix being bloated and getting ready to burst, but also it had the cancer on it. But then at the same time, he found cancer on my bladder, on my colon outside, right? Mm-hmm. And then within my, epithelial, whatever they call it. Mm-hmm. So he removed all that. And I love this doctor, because he's been with me for, 17 years now. Yeah. And I had that surgery. So I recovered from that surgery. And I just didn't want to do chemo again. I just didn't want to do it. I didn't want to lose my hair. I didn't want to get bloated. I didn't want to do it. And so I waited a good 6 months, because I just wanted to see what happened. So when my CA-125 started to elevate severely again, then I said, we did the chemo, and I did Doxil, Rubidoxil, whatever they call it, the red one, right? Yeah. And that was interesting, because number one, they promised me I wouldn't lose my hair, and yet I didn't, but I did, right? It got very thin. But on round 2, and I have some advice for anybody that's on that type of chemo, the Doxil, whatever. First round, I only did 3. First round was interesting for my gut, really had a hard time, dealing with that. I ended up in the emergency room because I didn't know what was going on. Okay. My second round was horrible. I had to have 2 shots of filgrastim, I think, like a Neupogen for the white blood cells, or the red blood cells. So because my blood had gone down, my husband gave me those 2 shots 2 days in a row. Okay. I was so sick, and I thought it was from the chemo, but I think it was from the filgrastim, because 20 days I was ill. I literally lost 12 pounds, Lonnie, in 4 days. 12 pounds in 4 days. I was like, I couldn't eat anything. I was miserable. It was horrible. Okay. Then I got better. I make notes. I get better. My blood's better. And then I go for my third treatment. And someone had said to me, if you go for IV hydration, because I had gotten very dehydrated during my second round where I really suffered. If you go for IV hydration right after chemo, which I organized, then it will help you a lot to stay hydrated during when the chemo portion, when you start to feel bad. Right? Did you know that I went for 2 days, I got IV hydration, that 20-day period of feeling horrible and sick and what I experienced with the second round was 8 days. It was only 8 days. I felt better. I felt fine. I did not have any of those side effects after, that 8-day period. It was crazy how well that hydrating a patient maybe right after chemo, just for a couple of days, I have really serious hydration. Because, it's hard for us to drink things. It's hard for us to eat, all that. And
there's a bit of swelling in the face also. Inside the mouth, there's a swelling due to the chemo.
It's just nasty. So I make it through chemo without losing my hair, interestingly enough. And my hair was very long. And I have a post somewhere. It says, look, I made it through chemo. I didn't lose my hair. About a month later, my hair starts to fall out. Now, I thought I made it through. And my hair got extremely thin. Like I lost like maybe 2/3 of my hair. That was really hard on me. It's back now, but it did take a long time for it to get thick and full again. It was very traumatic. That was very traumatic for me, especially at my age. I'm 66, and but I read that it was the filgrastim. Filgrastim has hair loss. If you look at the side effects of those 2 shots I took, hair loss, right? And depression and all of these things. So I guess I needed those shots, but that's really what caused my hair loss. And just thinking back on that, it makes me want to vomit. So now, unfortunately, just recently, that was a year ago, my CA125 went down. And then I waited about 6 months. It started to climb again a little bit. And then I went on a PARP inhibitor. You know what the PARP inhibitors are are you familiar with that medication?
No.
Oh, you should research that. It's called, it's a PARP inhibitor. It's called niraparib. And there's one called, there's 3 of them. And they're given after first-line chemo. They can't be given. And they were specifically developed for BRCA patients, for ovarian cancer. Niraparib was, but rubraparib or Lynparza, so Zejula, Lynparza, they inhibit some type of protein, and so they're really working very well. Okay, so please do your research on those. I don't know if they're available in India, but so I've been taking that for a year. And I took the lowest dose because I wanted to make sure I didn't have bad side effects. And now it's been a year. My CA125 is starting to climb again. So now I am just now, as of today, I have a new oncologist, and I am meeting with them to see. I've doubled my dose of the PARP inhibitor to see if it brings it down. But yeah, there's no walk in the park with ovarian cancer. It does rear its ugly head, unfortunately, and which is my case. So that's what I'm dealing with now.
So what do people need to expect when they get this cancer type?
Oh, I think number 1, catch it as early as possible. Number 2, I think people always need to be be very proactive and see what treatments are there. There's a lot of treatments now that weren't available when I was, diagnosed. What you can expect is going through the first-line chemo, which I read on your website, that it is the Taxol carboplatin.
Yes, yeah.
That one, you're going to lose your hair. You're probably going to get bloated, really bloated, basically gain a bunch of weight because of the steroids. But just know that there is There's just I think that people look at it as a death sentence, but it's really not, right? I always say, when you find out you have cancer, it's like a blessing, because there's millions of people running around with cancer that have no idea they have cancer. So once you find out that you have it, it's not going to be easy, but at least you're treating it. And that gives you a better chance to survive. But it's not easy. I'm not going to lie to anybody. I'm not going to say it's easy. It's not easy. It's not. It's very difficult on a lot of different ways. Body image, because I had a double mastectomy to have my breast removed and reconstructed. That took 9 surgeries, but I never had breast cancer. That was a prophylactic double mastectomy and cutting off body parts just to keep you from not having cancer, which is like, kind of, why would you do that? But no breast cancer in my family anywhere, but yet they urged me to cut my breast off. And so that is one regret that I wish I had never done. Another thing is that I just think, do your research, be proactive. I think what you guys offer there is so amazing, because you bring all these resources into one place, that nutrition, diet, exercise. I really believe that my cancer didn't come back for so long because I found that I could do spinning. You know what spinning, indoor cycling,
Yeah, indoor cycle. Yeah.
cycling. I did that for 9 years, and I only did it because I can't do, it's hard for me to do other exercises because of the neuropathy in my feet. I could wear the shoes and they have like a really hard bottom, so it's not soft. So and neuropathy is weird. You can't wear socks. It's a terrible feeling. But when I went to spinning with my friend, she goes, just try it. And I said, okay. And I did it and it worked. My feet didn't fall asleep. So I did that, and I did it for 9 years. I did spinning and yoga. I would do spinning and be all sweaty, and then I would go in the yoga room and I would do an hour of yoga like 5 times a week. And I did that consistently. So exercise, I think, especially cardio for ovarian cancer people, is really critical, because something about it, just helps. I really think it really helps. That type of exercise really helps, because when you're going through cancer, you don't feel like exercising. I mean, in your dreams, right? So when you're healthy, do that, because, why not? And then I stopped doing that a few years ago, Solani, because the place closed. They had to shut, and I didn't start again. And I really think that between having a job that I didn't like and I was unhappy in, that feeds, I think, unhappiness, depression, all of that stuff. To try to stay as happy as you can and as healthy as you can is, I think, important, because I think mental health and mindfulness and, all of that really, really does play in how we survive through a very difficult disease.
So, like, during the time you were having cancer, were you a working professional?
Yes.
Yes. So how did you manage your personal and professional life at that time?
I've always worked for myself. I'm a television and commercial producer. I just kept working. I can remember I was neutropenic when I was on set, and I walked up a flight of stairs, and somebody next to me said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I'm just a little tired. It was just a small flight of stairs." And I had no idea that I actually, because she didn't know I had my wig on and everything. But I just kept working. I kept working because I think you have to keep your mind busy. But I also was able to work a lot from home. So, and that was back then. So, but yeah, I just kept working. I kept busy, except for when I was sick in bed and I couldn't. But I just managed. You manage sometimes. You just pull through and you just do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So
No
during those
secrets.
times, so during those times, it's very tough and we need a support system. So from where did you get your support system along with the family?
Nowhere. Nowhere. I didn't. I didn't go to a support group. I didn't. I was miserable. Actually, I was very, after my cancer for many years, I was very depressed and very unhappy. And yeah, so I didn't go anywhere. I really didn't. I didn't know where to go. And sometimes, I didn't want to be around other people who were suffering because I was suffering. And that was making, I felt like that would add to my suffering because I'm kind of very empathetic for other people. And so I think I stayed away. Honestly, I think I stayed away. I do want to. I don't want to feel sorry for other people. I already felt sorry for myself. So I didn't reach out for help. And I probably should have.
Yeah. So what do you think are the importance of support groups?
I'm debating right now. I actually met a wonderful person. I went to a support group and I did meet somebody who is my friend now to this day for 10 years. She had a stroke and so she was in a health support group. I think this time around, I will seek to go to support groups because I'm in a different place in my life. 16 years later, that's somebody's lifetime, right? So I'm just in a different place in my life, but I think support now, especially for caregivers, I think caregivers really need support. I watched this last time as my husband just suffered. He didn't know what to do. He didn't have anybody. He didn't have anybody to call. He didn't want to call his friends to say, my wife is sick and I don't know what to do, and he just worried about me this one day when I was very, very sick before I went to the hospital. And I think caregivers really need a lot of support, right? It's really difficult on them.
So can you share your experience and thoughts about your caregivers?
About my what?
Can you please share your experience and thoughts about your caregivers who were there for you during your tough times?
I had a couple, I only had tough times. Oh, my husband. Honestly, this last time, only my husband. Even my boys stayed away. Just my husband. Even my sister stayed away. The second go around, it was not like the first one where there was more people there that were helping or caring. This time, no, it was really just my husband, and he was very dedicated to helping me, right? If it wasn't for him, I don't know what women do if they're alone. I really don't, if they don't have somebody living in their home. But yeah. But plus, I don't really ask for very much help, Solani. I don't. I'm one of those people that, I want to just, I know it's going to be over. I know I'm going to feel better. And I just, rock in my bed waiting for that to happen, which sometimes can take days and days and days. But yeah, I think it's really, really important for people to have somebody that is there for them.
Yes. So because often we feel that if we are asking for help, maybe that person will get irritated or disturbed. So we don't want to bother them much and take the botheration on us and be as much useful for us as possible.
They say that they say that if someone says just call me if you need anything, right? That's not them really wanting to help you. They would come and they would help you, but you wouldn't have to call them if you needed them.
Yes. The people who will be with you, you don't have to ask for their attention. They will obviously give you attention.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
So did you made any lifestyle changes like during after the treatment?
Yes. My first time, the first go around with chemo, we did fresh juices every day for like a year, right? We bought a juicer and we would do spinach and carrot and did that. That juicer is now in the garage because we just stopped doing that. And eventually over time from my first one, I just went back to being a normal self, because after 10 years, it just seems like it's never going to come back, right? And so you just kind of are living your life and not thinking about it. And this time, because I'm on this medication that makes it so I don't really have very much of an appetite to begin with. I only eat what I crave. But I am trying to be much better about not eating too much sugar, but it's very difficult for me. I can't eat I don't like to eat chicken or beef, or I'm sure you understand that. Or, it just is something so I have to find ways to get my protein, and then I don't have an appetite really. And so, but it's very important. I went to the American Academy of Nutrition, so I understand nutrition is super important. So yes, I am doing what I can, but I'm not really going overboard, because I think when you have cancer, sometimes 50% of you says, hey, I have cancer and I'm going to do what I want because I have cancer and I might die, or maybe I'm only going to live for another 2 years or 1 year, right? And then the other side says, no, you have to fight and you have to do, the right thing. And that's a weird thing that goes on mentally. Mental health is a really big issue, I think, with cancer patients also. I'm sure you agree. And so, dealing with that push and pull all the time. But I do the best I can. I'm in California, in Los Angeles. We typically eat pretty healthy just as a culture in Los Angeles. We don't eat, we're not like the middle America or the southern America, where they eat a lot of fried food and a lot of French fries and a lot of, everybody's kind of greasy and overweight. We're more of a healthier culture in here. So I do my best, yes. But of course, I don't think total dietary changes, I think it helps, but I don't think it's gonna take cancer away. But I think obviously, it helps with every human body to have better nutrition. We are what we eat, right? We are what we eat.
Every crisis in life teaches you a particular lesson. So what life lessons has your cancer journey taught you?
To celebrate every day, to not take anything for granted, to not think you're invincible, and that and that humility is really an important thing in living your life, and to not it's just to live every day. That's all any of us have, right? You, me, anybody. We only have this moment and today. But it's a different story when you kind of know your end game, right? You kind of know, like, maybe I won't die of my cancer, but more than likely I will. And you start to think about that too much. You start to think about, other people. And recently I came to the conclusion where my boys are going to be just fine without me. I don't see them hardly ever. My two sons, they just won't have their mom. But, we don't hardly ever see each other anyway. So I have to stop. I have to focus on living my life, because I only have my life to live.
Yeah.
And that's why I say celebrate every day and live your life the best you can. It's just, that's what's so important. I forgot to tell you one thing that happened to me when I was going through my first chemo. I nearly thought I wasn't ever going to make it. I was that bad. And in the middle of the night at 4 o'clock in the morning, I was laying in bed. I was bald. I was sick. I was miserable. I was big. My feet hurt. And I said, I can't do this. I just said, I cannot do this. And I heard a voice over to my right side, and this loud voice. I never told anybody for 10 years about this voice. This voice said, "You're going to be okay." And I jumped out of bed and I walked around my room. It was like, it was so ethereal. It was so real. And that's what gave me that voice, that message told me, although I went through a really difficult journey from that point on, but I held on to that voice. And sure enough, I was okay, right? It's 17 years later, basically. And I'm still here and I feel fine, but I have to deal with what's coming. And that is, I think being spiritually really connected and really, trusting. That's how I got through this last chemo. This last chemo was me being really, really diligent in meditating and being spiritually connected and, trusting that I was in faith, that I was just going to get through it and I was going to get through the other side. And that's all that I can say that I can do now. This is my journey. This is the path that has been handed to me. And I'm walking it, I'm walking it. So.
Yeah. So what was your first reaction when your reports were finally saying that you're cancer free?
I actually got that diagnosis 8 years after my initial cancer was found. My doctors literally gave me a letter that said I was cured so that I could get my health insurance payment reduced.
Yeah.
Right? So I was cured as far as I was concerned, so that was awesome. But I don't think that I actually had, it takes 5 years to get a doctor to basically say that. So after 5 years, I think you're just kind of like, you've gone 5 years without having to really deal with your cancer. So it's not a really big celebration to say, okay, now after 5 years, we can call you truly call you cancer free. But I think it's a mixed bag because that takes years. And now I'll let you know if it happens again, because, I'm currently not. So I'm just on the beginning of that new journey now. Okay, now what comes next for me, or finding out that it's not really, that medicine isn't really working as well as we had hoped.
So do you go for prescribed checkups?
Oh yeah, I actually have, well, currently because I'm under surveillance, I go once a month. They treat my blood, they test my blood. But on a regular basis, let's just say if I wasn't on the PARP inhibitor, the medication that basically tanks your blood, it's almost like a chemo that you take every day, but it's not. No, actually, my doctor he doesn't believe in obsessive CAT scans and testing. You feel fine. So 15 years, I had one CAT scan in my first cancer, and then I never had one again. I didn't have one again, ever. And then my CA125 this time, when it started to climb again, immediately it was like 6 points higher. They wanted to give a CAT scan. And my one doctor said, what are they going to see? They're not going to, they won't see anything. And then you're going to worry, let's wait. We're going to go through this whole protocol. So now we're going through a protocol before we do that. But yes. Yeah, because I'm BRCA1, they're here in the United States. They really have you go in once or twice. I have a colonoscopy every 2 years, not every 5 years or whatever. Yeah, so they do treat me and see me more often. Yes, yes. But it's just really just a gynecological exam, and that's it. Nothing special, No.
Yeah.
Nope, I've never had a mastectomy in 17 years because of mastectomy, a mammogram.
Yeah. So what do you think is the importance of self-examination? Like often people say that if we go for regular self-examination, then we can prevent because prevention is better than cure. So, what do you think is the importance of such self-examinations and why?
Well, I don't think that I would have found my cancer if I hadn't been very aware of how my body feels.
Mm.
And here's what you want to know what I really think is, because you're in a different country than me and I'm in the United States. Okay. So in the US, most women, they go to their gynecologist and they go to their gynecologist and they go to their gynecologist and they think their gynecologist knows everything about everything, right? About their hormones, about this, about that, about their breasts. But you know what? A gynecologist isn't trained in breast tissue and breast problems. They're trained in gynecological problems. And so this is when a lot of times you have to, I think, be proactive. Yes, do self-examination for sure, because you know your body better than anybody. And you know when something is like popped up and was not there 3 days ago or last week. So, and what does it really take to do self-examination? It's not an excuse not to do that. There's no excuse. Every woman, and I don't know how men do it, but every woman for sure should do self-examination of their breasts. And I think feeling around, to feel around their groin area, also for swollen. We have lots of lymph nodes down there, and they do swell up, right? So just be really aware of those little things. The problem here is that sometimes people will do that and then they go to the doctor and the doctor says, it's just a cyst or it's just this, and then they dismiss it, and then they walk away. But anyway, be proactive and always going for your mammograms and all your tests. Yes, for sure.
Yes, gratitude seems to be the biggest strength to fight this kind of situation. So what were you ever so grateful for that made you like always calm down after you think or revisit those memories?
That this might sound morbid, that where I'm going next is a really beautiful place. And we all go there eventually, right? And I think it's going to be a whole lot better than it is here. A lot of suffering here on this earth. So that's kind of what gets me through it. I just know I'm going someplace much better. And I don't think that we're given anything in our lives we can't handle, because I've had a very difficult life, a blessed life and a difficult life. And then I'm handed cancer. It's like, what? But I do know where I'm going is going to make up for all of that. I really believe that. And that's what I hold on to now, because, when you diagnosed with cancer, you face your mortality. And when someone faces their own mortality, their life takes a different, take a different view on life. And so, yeah, I have a lot of faith that where I'm going is going to be awesome. And when my time comes, my time comes. You know what I fear the most is the painful death of cancer. That's what I fear, is that, because I saw a few friends go through that, and that's what I try. I know is coming, but I want to know what to expect, but I don't want to know what to expect. That right now, currently in my world, in my everything, is the hardest thing for me, is knowing that that's not a pretty thing for your caregiver, for your family, for your children to see you go through, right? Yes. And I have a habit of not telling people things because I don't want them to suffer. They can't change anything, so why bother their life with it, right?
So what is that one thing you want to share with all those who are still fighting this battle?
As I am. Well, number one, I do think community matters that if you have a community of people around you, which is, I belong to a couple of Facebook groups that are community of women, that's really helpful because they're going through the same thing. They're trying to be supportive. And so everyone's supporting each other. You just have to have faith. You never know. I never thought that in 2005, I would still be here in 2021, right? Just envision that cancer as like the enemy, and you're blasting it apart with all your might every day. I don't. It's hard for me to really answer that question.
Yes. What is that one thing on your bucket list you would want to do?
Well, actually, I'm actually preparing a bucket list. My husband is from Italy. We have our family is in Italy, and I'm going back in a few weeks to see I have 2 grandkids that one is a newborn I haven't seen. So I'm going to spend some time with my boys and a few friends in Florida, and then I hope to go to Italy to see my family and then travel around Italy, because I feel as though they may say that I have to do chemo again, right? And I don't know that I want to do that again, right? I just don't know. I don't know what I want to do. So there's nothing fantastic, because I don't really have a bunch of money to go do anything that'd be truly on a bucket list, like dropping out of an airplane or something like that people like to do. No, I like to just spend time with my grandkids, because they're on the 3,000 miles away, and I haven't been able to do that. And that to me that's an important bucket list, because I want them to remember grandma.
Yes. So how do you feel more positive?
How do I make myself feel positive, or what do I do to create positivity?
Yes. What do you do to create positivity?
Actually, I use cannabis a lot in order to kind of, I think, block things out. I don't know. I am very good at compartmentalizing, and I actually spend a lot of time alone, because I'm better alone. I'm kind of a positive person on the outside and a sufferer on the inside to begin with. So, yeah, I don't think other people really always need to know my problems. So I just try to be happy. I just try. Being positive is difficult, because I don't, right now, currently, with this new reoccurrence happening and stuff like that, it's hard to be positive, but,
So like,
celebrate every day.
How do you relax
How do I
or
relax?
calm down? Yeah, calm down.
I walk. I go for lots of walks. I garden. I have a big garden. I love to work in my garden. I love nature. I like to, that's what brings me peace and grounds me, is to just go outside in nature and plant and weed and just take care of all my plants, because they need me. I worry about them too. But that's what I do. Yeah. And I like to just be by myself and go for walks. I know it sounds strange, but I really do. Maybe it's because if I see my friends, then I have to talk about stuff. If I see this, like, I have to talk about stuff. When I'm by myself, I don't have to talk about it. I just can enjoy what's around, and I don't have to hear, how are you feeling? That kind of feeling sorry for me. There's a difference between how are you feeling and how are you feeling, right? And so, yeah, I don't know, put on my happy face and go about the day.
So if you have to sum up your journey in one sentence, then what would that be?
Oh, I wrote it down, but I think I already said it to you. Hold on. I wrote this one down. I said, oh, I already said it. That millions of people are walking around not even knowing that they have this thing brewing in them. For us as cancer people, we have to find the light in it. And I feel the light is that we know that we are truly blessed because we know that we have cancer, and that so many people don't. And so I find the light in that, in the knowledge that I have something that I can be proactive about and take care of, and not all of a sudden one day discover a grapefruit tumor in my back that then kills me in 2 months, right? Because I wasn't proactive. Go to the doctor, have your checkups, don't think you're invincible, and feel blessed when you know if something is wrong so that you can take care of it. Because denial is what will kill you in the end.
So stay positive, stay aware, and just keep smiling.
Yeah.
So, your story is really inspiring, and I hope this session really motivates people out there who are traveling or who have been traveled to this journey. So it was lovely having you here today on this session with us, Wendi. So once again, thank you so much for your valuable time.
Thank you, Salani, and good luck with everything. I think what you're doing there is wonderful. So yes. Thank you for doing that.
Yes, thank you so much.